Mm. Now, someone asks, what are some ways to balance the utilization of masculine energy for young boys as a mother?
Hmm.
Interesting.
And it's the difficult part. She can't. She
Mm.
can do her best, which is the problem. And I empathize with sisters who've been given that double duty, especially if the brother is not actually stepping to the plate to take that responsibility. But it takes two. And I would actually examine what it is that caused the schism to happen, and that the two should be speaking about the welfare of that young boy, because that young boy needs structure. All boys need structure. They need to have a mentor or someone that actually helps them to understand that surge of testosterone that is really taking over his life at this time.
Mm.
He's very susceptible to influence, especially influence that shows him strength and power.
Mm.
There's but so much that a woman can do to actually help in that way. I would suggest that she would then look for masculine, positive masculine influences in the community, especially in the world of martial arts.
Mm.
Martial arts, a teacher who is not only benevolent, but strict and will kick his natural ass. But
Yep.
he comes into line.
Remember?
Boys, yeah, we've all had our asses kicked when you go into it, you have to go into it as a man. Young men are forged, and the way that they're forged is to be tested. The reason why the school system fails is because they do not test their boys. Boys need to be challenged. They don't challenge the boys,
Mm.
and they've taken away everything necessary to build his masculinity, his leadership, and his whole mentality to provide and protect. All that's gone. So you need to find those brothers, a benevolent brother in the military who's a shooter, and maybe teach him down to the range.
Yeah.
Teach him responsibility in dealing with not only his martial arts but what healing. The first thing that I learned was you got to learn to heal before you learn to break somebody's bones.
Mhm.
So you teach him what it is to heal first, how to approach his friends, what to do and where to stop his activity. Show him that even if he's chasing danger, how to manage himself in dangerous situations. Again, a boy needs a challenge. He needs to feel at the end of the day that he's accomplished something. If he doesn't, he'll go out and do it to find out some way how to accomplish and to make that feeling in him of accomplishment. And that's why we have so many gangs today. Why do we have so many gangs? Because the society has taken away the young men's ability to build society, or to at least support the one that is in there as a leader. They don't build leaders anymore, they build followers, and boys are not followers. They don't like to follow. They'll follow an alpha male, but that's because they have not yet learned their own leadership skills.
Mhm.
Easy to raise a male. They say, well, today is a young girl. No, it's a whole different animal.
Mm.
And a young man must be taught how to be a man.
Mhm.
It takes so long to be a man.
Mm.
Why? Because a young man does not become a man until he's in his 20s. Trust that. I mean, he's got all the strength and the power and so forth. But they say, well, and this was a feminist, they used to say, well, you take all this length of time to good. We become mature at 16 and 17. Yeah, well, there's an old saying, quick to ripe, quick to rot.
Mm. Quick to write.
That's number one. Number two, they say that a more advanced entity takes longer to develop.
Mm. Mm.
So
Wow.
all of the feminist nonsense that they told us when they were telling us that boys die at birth more than girls, yeah, that's because the mothers weren't healthy. It
Mm.
takes a hell of a lot of power for a woman to make a boy child. Trust me. Because of what it is that she must now create as the fundamental baby, because of what we become, the muscle density, the size, and so forth that she is incubating. She must put the foundational material into that baby. And very few do, because if you notice, they're becoming underdeveloped. They're going through what I call a congenital disease or homosexuality. And they go through all of these conditions because we have been so deficient in feeding our sisters as well as the brothers today. They're very deficient in nutrition.
Right.
And this is the thing we have to do. We're not creating whole boys and whole girls.
Mm.
You see, so I would say you have a difficult job ahead of you, sister. I would suggest that you do your best at this time, because your situation with him, if it's a problem, it only grows when he grows. The older he gets, the more the problem grows. So what you want to do is put aside whatever it is you think you need to be and do as a woman, and you have to have your. No, if you got that boy with you now, you better put him into schools or in circumstances that are going to help regiment him. And I'm not talking about the military. That's the last thing you might want to do. I'm talking about there's brothers out there that are willing to work with that boy to turn him into a man. Find them. They're out there.
That's right.
Another thing I recommend is to always speak kindly and well about men in the family.
Wonderful.
About his father.
Yeah.
You know, my dad and mom separated when I was young, and she always said, your dad loves you very much. And that made a huge difference. Never say anything derogatory about his dad. And that goes for you guys as well. Never say anything derogatory about the mother, because that really makes a huge difference. It causes an imprint in their minds.
Indeed, brother.
Ready for another question?
Okay, yes.
All right. Yes, greetings. Welcome to King Simon Presents. We got Dr. Nalani and Dr. Phil Valentine in the building. Who am I speaking to and what's up? How you feeling?
I'm doing great. My name is Nakia. I'm calling from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Grand rising to the kings and queens.
Yes, sir.
I would like to know about if you live in a positive life, what is the main way? Should we try to bring back rite of passage for everybody to go through so they can be enlightened and know what to do as far as men and women leading from boy and girlhood into adulthood?
Yeah, the rites of passage have been taken from us.
Very much.
Yeah, the rites of passage have been taken from our boys.
However, one of the things that you can do is you can get a group of concerned men and women and have the women deal with the girls and the men deal with the boys. A program, and it doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be, hey, look, we're going to meet once a week. We're going to sit down with the guys, or we're going to play basketball with the guys, or whatever it is that you can mentor them, because they could see from your activity and from the conversations that you have with each other. And it doesn't have to be in a way that they have to sit down and be lectured to. No, it's something that you bring them on as a friend and as a young mentee, just to see how camaraderie among men can be and how lessons can be learned in the process. Perhaps you're just shooting some hoops once a week together. And those kinds of things can start a bonding. And then with that bonding, you'll be able to have better conversations. And then you'll find that when things get rough in school, they'll come to you and ask you questions. Well, what do you think about this?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, that boys will need a little bit more agitation than that. They need fear. They need the fear of God put into them. What you sounded more like is more for what women would probably do. In rites of passage for men, you got, for instance, what if you will go out to the Aboriginal brothers in Australia, the men mentor the boys from the time they're 7. They're taken away from the mother, and they stay with the men as much as possible so that they can learn the rule. And then after they've reached a certain age, like 15 or 16, after they've learned everything they could from the elders, they have to take a trip out by themselves into the wilderness and survive. If they don't come back, they're not really recognized as men.
Mm.
Need a lot more challenge of what it is it takes to be a man if he is going to be a provider and a protector. Just talking to him is not going to do it. Boy needs physical interaction with it. He needs to either get his ass kicked. He needs to get. That's why the hazing and so forth. It's not as stupid as it is sometimes in the colleges. But our African ancestors and our Native ancestors here and our Aboriginal ancestors, he had rites of passage for those boys, and that would also do with the hunt. For example, Maasai, you got to go out there and beat up a lion. You don't get the girls to go out and beat up lions. Maasai you got to go out there and prove that you can protect. So you got to go back there and bring back a lion skin. So yes, boys are a little bit more, we need a little bit more agitation than the girls.
Oh, for sure, I want to be clear, not for a rite of passage.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking in the mentoring stage,
Oh,
not as a rite of passage for sure, because
okay.